Hey everyone, welcome to Tice's Tech Track podcast, episode 3. We just came back from Vietnam. It's been about 2 weeks since the last episode. You're going to be seeing this episode a day after the previous one, so it's a bit of a time jump. But anyways, we had a very good trip to Vietnam. I made 3 videos of that trip. They're on the TravelingTice channel. I'll link to the first episode in the corner where we visited Ha Long Bay. Really nice trip, really enjoyed it. And now I'm back in Taiwan and back to the grind. So yeah, in this episode, we're going to be talking about something a little bit different, or a little bit of a different topic than what has been covered in the past 2 episodes. It's a little bit less tech related, but I think it's still relevant. It's especially relevant to the journey that I'm on, trying to build my own business. But it's just a skill that I think is beneficiary in any aspect of life, to make your life better or to become more successful in that sense. And that topic is going to be saying no, or the art of saying no, or more of like the skill of being able to say no to things that you don't want to do. Sounds easy, right? You don't want to do it, so you just say no. But in practice, it's not that easy. And I have quite a long journey with this skill. I'm very bad at it. First of all, I'm really bad at saying no to things. I value relationships, even though they can be strangers. But I value those so much that going through this social, uncomfortable, usually a short period of time of social discomfort, which is what happens when you say no to someone. And the reason why I want to talk about this right now is because just before we went to Vietnam, like a week and a half ago now, I had an instance where I had to use this skill. So yeah, let's just talk about that. And I also want to talk a little bit about my journey of failing to say no in the past, which led to some situations that I didn't want to be in. And my belief that if you master this skill, you're going to be successful. Like it's I think one of the biggest things that can help to someone's success and happiness in life. So anyways, about this instance that happened a week and a half ago, it was with a dear friend, a good friend, that I met in, our friendship has already existed since Australia, where I lived for a year back in 2018 and 2019. So I think that, I've known him for about 4 to 5 years. We also met, because he's Dutch, we also met back in the Netherlands last summer when I was in the Netherlands. So we're just good friends. And he basically sent me a message, which started very simple. Like it was just about like, hey, can you program an API for me? He's like a bit of like a digital nomad / business owner type of person. Like he does a lot of like investments, and so I would say he's a pretty successful guy. So I really valued our friendship quite a bit. And so he had this new business he was setting up with 2 friends, or 2 companions. And he pitched this, it was like a small message where it just had like, oh, can you code this API for me? And in my mind, I was like, oh, that's sure, that's pretty simple. Like I can code an API. Like that's not a very difficult thing to do. So like from the first moment, I was like, okay, sure, to this I can say yes, sort of thing. And then we started talking a little bit about the project, and it's turned out to be quite a large project in the end. We even the day after he sent that message, we scheduled like a phone call to really talk about this thing. And it turned out to be like quite a large project. It needed like a website, which I don't know, like I don't really feel like doing that sort of stuff anymore, like making websites for others. To him, I was already trying to be like imposing my rules. Like I was okay, I can build this API for you, that's fine. But like, especially designing a website, I really dread that. Like I like to do it for my own project, like designing and stuff, but I really don't like to do that for someone else. I don't know what it is. Like for me personally, I really do enjoy coding. Like that doesn't really matter in what kind of project that is. That's why I'm also able to keep doing my job in some ways, because I can just focus on the coding part, which I enjoy regardless. But like designing a website and figuring out like the copy text and everything like that, I already told him like, I don't really want to do that. So I was already like saying no, sort of. Like I was already telling him some of the rules that I had, to sort of, make it seem like I can still do the project. And that was what I was telling myself as well. Like I was just like thinking of excuses to not have to say no. So I was thinking things like, oh, this can be a good opportunity because, my friend is, good with business stuff. So maybe I can learn some things about that as well. And it's not just about coding. But after this phone call that we had, it was pretty clear that he basically wanted me to do all of the technical things, which is still challenging for me, but it's not really the thing that I want to learn and grow in right now. Like I know how to set up a server, I know how to do all of that sort of stuff. So that wasn't necessarily going to be very challenging for me, or at least the challenge that I wanted to learn and grow in. And it was also like I actually pitched to him a pretty high price. So it was kind of like the highest that I ever charged as a freelancer, like as a freelance project. I always price myself way too low. So I wanted to at least give a proper price. So I was setting some rules up, and I was telling myself that, in the end, it might be a good experience. But the reality was, and I only saw this really after, that's basically since that first message that he sent me and this project started to sort of like appear on my radar, I was stressed out. I remember like I wasn't sleeping well that night, and leading up to the phone call and also during the phone call, I was very stressed. I was like stressed out in my mind and also in my behavior. So it was already, even before starting the project, it was already playing parts because I have a pretty full schedule. Like I have my job, I want to work on my own business, I still do fitness, and I think that stress response was mostly due to the fact that I knew deep down that if I were to say yes to this project, one of those things that I want to do, the other things are going to suffer. But then again, like I was still telling myself, yeah, this can be like a good opportunity, this and that. But after that phone call, it got pretty clear that this was going to be like a big project. Like he wanted like a login page. He wanted to, he had like a roadmap for like next year. If we're happy with your work right now, then it's going to bleed into next year and on and on and on. And so it was pretty interesting. Like right after this phone call, my girlfriend was in the room. She doesn't speak Dutch, but I think she could tell that I was stressed out. And that was kind of like the first thing that she said to me. Like I hugged her and I was like, oh, I need to calm down a bit. And then she was like, well, if you say yes, then when are you going to start your own business? Because I keep telling to her, like, I want to start my own business at some point. And she was totally right. It was like the wake-up call I needed to sort of tell myself to cut those excuses to not have to say no. And yeah, that was a big moment because like basically as soon as I started to reason a bit and I thought like, yeah, there's no way that I can combine these things, that I can do these things, and I really don't want to give up, this. I don't want to give up wanting to work for my own project. And so basically, the day after, in the morning, I wanted to be a bit quick. I didn't want to wait too long because he had a few other options as well to do his project. But I wanted to be like firm and quick that I did not want to do it. And like I was even thinking like, oh, maybe I can only do the API part, so you can find like, people for the other things. Like maybe he was even gonna ask that, like, can you please do just the API part? But at that moment, I was kind of like, if I said yes, and even if it was for a large sum or a big amount of money, if I said yes, then it would go against my own rule set of like, well, one of the rules that I sort of set for myself was not exchanging your time for money anymore other than what is necessary. We're going to do a little break in the podcast right now because the garbage truck is passing me right now and it might be audible. So I'll be back in a sec. All right, he seems to have passed. Sorry, guys. Taiwan is a noisy place, especially with these garbage trucks which make noise. Anyway, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up garbage trucks in Taiwan and you will know what I'm talking about. It will probably happen more often in these podcast episodes. But anyways, so yeah, this instance happened. I decided to say no. I wanted to be pretty firm with him. So I pre-curated a bit of a message like, yeah, I don't want to do this. And I was being honest with him as well. Like, I just think that this is going to interfere with my plans of building my own business. Or just like doing things for myself, which I wanted to do and still want to do, of course. He took that very nicely. Like, he was just nice about it. We're still friends. Because that's some of the fear you'll have, right? Like, it's going to cost the friendship or whatever. And usually those fears are ungrounded. So yeah, that was just like a, how do you call it? Like a leap of faith. But the right thing to do. Because if I were not to say no, I know that I would have been stressed out even more than I was just. But this is just like 2 days of being stressed out. Like as soon as I decided to say no to that, all of my stress started to sort of disappear pretty much instantly. Because I know I had made the right choice. But to be fair, coming to that point where like that decision to say no came so quick, like only after 2 days of being stressful, I already sort of recognized that I had to say no. In the past, for me personally, that sometimes wasn't gonna be like realized within 2 days. So in other words, I have a history of not willing to say no, which then had some negative outcome for me. Usually this translated to stress, like just being absolutely stressed out, burnt out, and most of those situations I inflicted on myself because I didn't want to say no. So one of the things that I can remember is like more of these projects that I just took on me, but I didn't really want to do. So for example, I built websites for people that were in my network and asked me if I wanted to build them a website. And I know how to build websites, so I usually said yes to help them out. And I wasn't very good at marketing myself, especially to these friends. So I just wanted to help them out, like I didn't really care much about the money. And this is also part of the reason why I was still doing some of these projects, even though I was working full time and having loads of money. I think that's like one of the big achievements, because in this instance that I had a week and a half ago, because I gave him quite a high quote, like I gave him quite a high price for my services. So, that was in itself a big reason to, not have to say no, because, I was charging a lot of money. But then when I thought really about it, did I need this money? I didn't. I don't. Like I have enough. I don't have a lot of money, but is it worth the amount of money that I quoted him, which to you may be a lot, may not be a lot. Let's say there was like a lot of money, like it was even like $5,000 or $10,000, which is quite a lot of money. But would it have been worth cutting your time towards something that may later get to you a lot more money? Or maybe even just let go of the money idea and just say that, is it worth going through another period of your life where you're going to be stressed out like crazy and you're going to be in a bad mental state, like not putting yourself first? Is that worth that amount of money? In the past, I thought yes, like I didn't want to go through that discomfort of saying no, so I would say yes and I would be stressed out for it. And that's something that I'm slowly trying to learn. And of course, saying no, it doesn't only apply to people. It also applies to situations that you inflict on yourself. So another good example of this was me last year in Taiwan. Me last year in Taiwan was a very interesting year. Which is, right now, like, this podcast is probably going to be uploaded in 2024, now that I'm thinking about it, because right now it's December, so when I say last year, it's 2022, when I was in Taiwan, when I was living in Tainan, and when I was studying a Chinese course. And that situation was really bad. It started out okay, but at some point I just couldn't juggle all of the different things that I was doing. So I was doing the Chinese study, I was working part-time, and I don't know, I just really didn't like my situation. I was just really, I was burnt out to the point where, I don't know, like I had a bit of like an identity crisis and all of this sort of stuff. It was just a pretty bad period. I just wasn't comfortable. I also let go of a lot of comforts because, I moved from my home country to a place that was foreign to me at the time. Right now, it's a bit less foreign to me. It's still foreign to me, but a bit less. So, you had a bit of, not necessarily culture shock, but not having your usual comforts that you would have at home. And it was just overall a pretty dire situation. I didn't enjoy it at all. It was very hard for me to make friends. Because I was so stressed out, I just didn't have the energy to do it. And at some point, it was in, I think, early July of 2022, when I was going through another cycle of my current study. The first cycle I had completed by the skin of my teeth. I don't know how I did it. It absolutely drained me mentally because, like, I was doing Chinese during the day and then I was working at night. And the second cycle was like one level higher, so it was even more difficult. And that wasn't necessarily the problem. The problem was that this cycle had a different teacher, like this semester had a different teacher, which was a lot more, not strict, but just imposed way more homework. I had to do like a presentation a week. And, this is also part of like saying no. Was just like not accepting this situation. So in early July, I think I was in a city with my girlfriend, and I was just like, you know what? No, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to inflict this situation on myself anymore that I had brought myself into. So like that was just me saying no to a situation, and pretty soon, like I think from that moment on, I just skipped my classes. Didn't want to do that anymore. And because I couldn't stay in Taiwan any longer, I had to solve that problem, which I solved by going back home about a month later when my visa were to run out. Tried to make the best of my time in Taiwan. But it was a similar effect because at that moment I was super stressed out, super burnt out. And I remember it was when I was taking a shower and I told myself, no, I don't want this anymore. And I had the similar effect. Like I just drained, like this huge burden was on my shoulders and it drained off of me very quickly. And that was huge. But that took a lot longer. That took like a couple months. And I think that's just a very important to learn. Now, of course, there are situations where you cannot say no because you have a job and we all need money. So, sometimes it's a bit harder to say no to an immediate situation that you're in. But still, you can do things, right? Like you can, like if you, for example, are not happy with the current job that you're having and you want to change, then do the effort to change. Like learn something else. Or in my case, it was coding. I did that because, every situation that you're in control of it. Even if you don't believe you are, I believe that everybody is sort of in control. There are exceptions, of course, like, being in a poor country or that sort of stuff. But even if you're like in a really poor place, you can work your way sort of out of it. It's hard. It's a really hard road. And maybe it's not just changing your path, but it's maybe also changing your mindset when you're in it. Like, for example, you are, let's say, a place that has no freedom, like you are in jail or something like that. Like, you can think that you are in jail, but you can also mentally change your mind to say, like, hey, even though I'm in jail, I don't let my mindset be affected by it, sort of thing. I don't know. That's I'm not sure how practical that sort of advice is from someone who is extremely privileged to be in the situation that he is. And that might be another podcast talking about gratitude and that sort of stuff, which, to be frank, I'm really not good at in this moment, but I try to be. But so yeah, saying no, it's a big thing. It's still a very big thing for me. But I think that what happened to me a week and a half ago, and indeed, like preventing myself from doing something that, like in reality, like it would be bad for the both of us, because I would not put my full heart into the project because I don't want to do it. So he would get a product that is not, like that someone did not put their heart into. And so I think that if we can all learn to say no more often, it's a very good thing. And yeah, that's, I think, going to make the world a lot better. One of the things that really helped me with saying no was, well, in this case, it was my girlfriend reminding me, but indeed having like an accountability partner or like a mentor. That's one of the things that I want to do this year, 2024. I want to find a mentor to sort of guide me, or I don't know if I necessarily want to find a mentor or just like a person that has traveled the road that I'm currently traveling on, and sort of get a bit more social interaction in this front, which I don't really have at the moment. I got my colleagues at my job, but they're just doing a job. It's like I don't really have a lot of people. Well, except for this friend that I had to say no to, but I don't know. It's not really the same, I guess, of someone that can sort of remind me of indeed putting yourself first. And I think secondly, what's also important is having these rules for yourself. So I have like a list of rules that sort of over the years I've sort of accumulated, tenets you can call them. And this one includes, in my case, not exchanging your time for money unless necessary. And if you have these preset rules, then later on making a choice like this, saying no, a lot easier, because you just don't tolerate it, or you have thought about it beforehand. So yeah, like putting yourself first, putting your mental health first, I think is huge for me, because I've been down there, I've been burnt out, I felt like shit mentally in the past, and these are all experiences that have made me to kind of be able to say no a bit easier, but I'm still no expert at it at all. So yeah, that's I think all I wanted to share. How long have we been going on for? Let me see. I think about 25 minutes. Yeah, good one. Let's see where this podcast goes, right? It's been 3 episodes. I think, yeah, I'm gonna be doing 5 episodes before I will launch this somewhere next year. I hope to launch it January 1st, but we'll see. But yeah, exciting. I hope you enjoyed listening to this one. And yeah, I'll see you in the next episode. Take care. See you later. Bye-bye.